ourselves to attain those jobs that are created. Are we ready for the jobs? Or we are somewhere there trying to fidget around or thinking in the box of, the government is not caring for us. I'm particularly centering on Uganda because the motion says, what does Uganda have in the store? Next, when you look at the way the youth today are presenting themselves socially, I can actually say that the government is putting all avenues to have a better life. But we have chosen maybe to go astray, to go somewhere else. So that one also in the social life that we are living also prepares us or determines what we are going to have tomorrow. But the government has put in programs that are helping us now come to a better future. Also look at this, that today in the militarization of the country, the government has tried to allocate positions for the graduates from the university to go and participate in the country. So they are enrolling graduates to join the military. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As the next person comes to speak, I'll just cue in for the audience and everyone. Among the things that fire and hire presidents in the West is the number of jobs created vis-a-vis the number of people that arrive at the stage that take up jobs. Would someone like to jog those figures for Uganda? How many jobs do we create annually? How many jobs do we need annually? That would be interesting for the debate level of this. I'm sure someone should be able to look at those figures. Presidents are fired and hired depending on the number of jobs they are able to create against the population that is ready to take up the jobs. How do we perform as a country for our youth? Arthur Semuyaba from Uganda Martyrs University, as you take the stage, I had a discussion with Mzee Bidandi Sali many years ago, and his frustration was then that members of parliament emerged from the ghetto, emerged from anywhere, and they had never been mentored, they had never been shown around, they had never been schooled in the body politique. They just popped up and became. And he kept telling me he had opportunity to work with Kakonge in UPC, with his group. They were ideologically grounded. So in terms of body politique, do we actually prepare our people? In terms of the economy and innovation, can you just close your eyes and look at the debate we had earlier in the morning and reflect on the youth? What is their place? That's not for you. That's for everyone. Carry on.
Okay. Good afternoon. Yes, in regards to the questions you've asked, one,
you don't have to answer them. Please pitch. You have 4 minutes to pitch.
Okay. First and foremost, the motion says that the future of every youth, the future of every nation belongs to the youth. What does Uganda have in store politically, economically for posterity? Well, we need to understand who a youth is. It has been earlier defined by the Constitution that a youth is a person who's between the ages of 18 to 30. And we go ahead to see that there are various youths that have tried to join politics. However, is the ground favorable? One, I'll refer you to the article that was written to Ewoko Andrew when in his article entitled Young People Changing Uganda's Political Landscape. He said that even though the youth constitute 78% of the total population, these people have been unable to represent themselves politically. Why? Because they are not economically empowered. Two, it is that the government has not prepared them to become self-sustaining individuals, whereby they cannot think on their own. and that's why they cannot think on their own, and they cannot come up in the political sphere to outwit the old generation. We see that adults keep on lying to the youth that they are the leaders of tomorrow, and this has become the daily lullaby, and we keep on singing it since from nursery that we are the future. We are the future generation for tomorrow, and we are the leaders for tomorrow. But in reality, we see that the youth are not actually leading. They are being driven by a regime that is old. They are being driven by a regime that is old, and we see that in the current status quo, it is said that the average age of the parliament that we have in Uganda today, the average age is 65 years, whereby most of them are between the ages of 65. And of recent, we went to meet the Attorney General, and he said that the youth, if they are to be empowered politically, they need to get organized. However, how can they become organized if at all the government has not taught them how to do it? We see that this government of ours, politically, it is corrupt. And whereby it is corrupt, it has limited the youth from participating in politics. We see how Bobby Wine has been suppressed from joining politics, whereby we see that a band of youth that follow him have been aggressively outwitted, whereby they have been beaten thoroughly, and some of them end up giving up. We see that there is high level of oligarchy and democracy in Uganda, whereby it's only the rich that dominate the political ladder. We see that our government has the ambition to honor and use military power, to use military power so that it can be able to suppress the youth. Socially, we shall see that there is high level of nepotism and tribalism, whereby it has eaten up every fabric of our Ugandan system. The clear example is of the recent elections that were held in 2021, where the president of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, came and stated that the reason as to why NRM people have failed in the central is because of tribalism. That if the Ankole in the central have not been able to win these posts, it should be less wondrous because they hate them. We see that this sowed the seeds in the youth who were emotional, and they started fighting each other. We see that Yuval Noah Harari once stated that human beings are social animals and they need to cooperate, and their happiness comes in when they engage each other, and where it's denied.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll definitely come to you. Hold back those points. Let's have the last of the panel pitch. Is it the last? The second last. Okay. He's actually the last. Arinaitwe Geoffrey from Muteesa Royal University. Yes, Geoffrey.
Where are we stuck?
Are we actually stuck?
I will proceed with that after. As the generation between the ages of 18 to 30, where are we stuck? My name is Arinaitwe Geoffrey. Being born in the nation that is being gifted with nature, that is to say our environment, has basically not even disappointed anyone who wishes to do something. Before I proceed, I would wish to question you. Our country, Uganda, as a nation, before the youth come in to intervene on anything, we have national parks, we have wildlife, we have rivers, we have lakes, we have everything that can actually help us propel, that is economically, politically, and socially. But what have we done? As the youth, we are regarded as the generation that will develop its own country. And we are the people that look forward to taking the nation and become prosperous. Thank you. If we focus on the changing of our policies, basically as Uganda, a nation, and worldwide, I believe that everything that ranges from socially, politically, can be elevated. Economically, I look at the generation and changes that can be made in our policies in order to send us a little higher. That is to say, in innovation, creativity, and our thinking. One, as the youth, we are limited by our mindset. That all goes to economic, that is as a social factor that everyone needs to consider as we develop as the youth to prosper in the nation. I would proceed by having the youth in the political section coming in to only cause chaos rather than raise points. I would not urge anyone to participate in a riot, but rather show us the youth, the government, the generation, and the stakeholders what the political situation currently has failed to do. I guess no one couldn't fail to come in for a boy who brings something very important on a table. I give a casement authority. We are giving much of the incentives to the foreign investors. Why? What is Uganda as a nation? Why are we the youth prize? It is the role of the Uganda Investment Authority, the Ministry of Trade, and other stakeholders to come in and support us, rather than us saying we are innovative, we are going to drive the nation, we are rioting, but rather we need to set a pace and show the country what our points are, as I will explain further, in that we can all drive the nation to prosper. Otherwise, Uganda is a blessed country, I would wish to inform you, and Africa as a general. The youth will remain the key to the development of the world and our nation, Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The ones on the floor, please listen. We are opening up. We're going into the next set of minutes. We are open to the table. Timekeeper, how many did we say? 5. Okay. We'll allow the timekeeper a latitude of up to a minute extra, an extra minute. So it will be 5 to 6. You're open to the floor. You're open to your colleagues. So in case someone wants to interject from there, they can just come up. Douglas, you have the floor. You've listened to your peers. Is there something you'd like to change in what you said? Are there things you pitched that you think need to touch up?
It saddens my heart when I hear a fellow youth saying that we cause chaos, we need a mindset change, saying that we need to package ourselves. Well, that's your assertion, and I respect your thinking. But I would like to appreciate my able comrade Arthur for his wonderful points that he points out. But in my speech, I clearly pointed out the 5 formats I'm going to use: the human rights approach to development. Participation, which stands with panel, P stands for participation, A stands for accountability, N stands for non-discrimination. If there's any question from the audience, I would gladly take it. In my speech, I did not clearly bring out what I wanted to say, but I said that format is what I'm going to use to bring out the political aspect, the social, and economic. Let me start with the political aspect. I clearly pointed to you out that we have representatives of youth in parliament. There are 5. We have the National Youth Council, and we have in 2018, the Alliance of Civil Society came up with the National Youth Parliament. All those are bodies that represent or be in position to help us voice our grievances or our issues, we as young people. So some of you may gladly argue, or generally as a layman would say, we are represented. But the question is, do we have effective rural youth are the majority? So if the rural youth are left out in this system, so what happens? In a scenario whereby the majority are left out, won't we come up and see violence, of which we saw recently happened in 2020, before the elections, violence on the streets of Kampala, 18th November, who doesn't remember that? That is a point to note. So politically, we, as the young people, as I stated, we are not effectively represented. An article in the Daily Monitor, I think it was in the year of in the year of 2019, stated that unaged government in charge of the young Uganda. I clearly told you that we have an average age of 65 years. So that leaves us on
inclusion of youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garang. Now I'm going to tackle it under the economic aspect. We have had programs that have been brought up by the youth. We have the Youth Venture Capital Fund, which eventually we saw the yoga.
You also have a hand there.
Second? Allow me to start by tackling your point. Your issue is on the issue of numbers, that we are represented in Parliament. But my point was on the issue of effective representation. Yes, we have those people in Parliament, but if our views are not effectively represented, I know you're trying to bring out the point of packaging. If the education system is one that is not properly, that brings out the young people, we saw the likes of political education being scrapped off. That would have been a system that would help nurture the people that you're trying to front. If the policies that are already in place are even not effective, would you therefore front your argument of packaging? I believe not. To go to Mr. Garang. Mr. Garang brings out the issue of the Youth Livelihood Fund. We have had one, first of all, it does not include the young people to draw them, but it's rather the old people who are not in the category of the youth that draws these programs. Now, what does this happen? It nullifies one of the acronyms that I brought out in the panel, the issue of non-discrimination. We should enforce non-discrimination. Human rights, that is a human rights approach to development. If the young people are excluded out of this design of these programs, then how shall we attain development? How shall we see the prosperity?
Let me ask you something.
Yes?
I definitely like inclusion. But would it change anything if with or without inclusion, the policy is right?
The policy can be right. We have had very many right policies as Uganda, and Uganda has very many good policies. But the question, as I stated before, do we see, in the beginning of my speech, I talked about practicality, I talked about impact, I talked about sustainability. All these are things I please beg for. Thank you. So all these are things we do not see in these policies that are existent. We are looking at posterity, as I said, for all generations. If we have a generation that is one that we are being centered on violence because we are not included in decision-making bodies, shall we inculcate a system of violence in ourselves? Because if we are violent today, shan't we produce kids that are going to be violent charity? Shall we have a government that fosters violence in its citizens? I believe that is not what we want for ourselves. We want a government that is efficient, that is good, that is inclusive. That is what I'm trying to front in tonight's debate.
Thank you very much. Damien, where is Damien? I'm about to pass the baton to the next moderator. We will invite at this point Amon Nalinda from Ankole Western University.
Thank you. To add on what I'd previously said, for example, economically, the government has brought up programs of skilling Ugandans through enterprise, and even now some of these programs have been incorporated in the parish model development. Now, I give an example. It really disturbs my mind when I see people having
a question already from your colleague.
Yes.
Basing on the parish development model that you're fostering, how should be your point? We have seen that many people have not been included into the system. People have made testimony.
Allow me say, you sit and I first teach you. I remember very well, we had the yoga program, but people were given money. When they were given the money, the youth, instead of using the money to go and carry out economic activities, they put the money into drinking. You see, someone went and bought a phone, others went to the bars, others, they did not use the money for the purpose it was meant for. Now, if such a use cannot develop, is it the problem of the government or the money?
Okay, you have quite a number. You have one from him and who is this? Gulu. Mbarara and Gulu.
Yes, yeah, I'm Muteesa Edgar. I do petroleum engineering at MUST. So my question is very simple, especially about the parish development model, because I think the argument here is that the youth deserve the seat on the table and not necessarily to be beggars on the other hand. So I think you work better if you engage that contextually. Like, why shouldn't we have the youth as the ones who determine what percentage they get in parish model and all those things, but simply them being like determined for? That's the issue here.
Thank you very much.
We'll take, that was must. Gulu.
The biggest question that I will feel the panelists on the podium should answer is, even if he's trying to push that there is a program that has been brought to the parish base, the question that he should give us is, why has been there a failure in the different programs that have been brought by the government? For example, we had Yoga.
Thank you. We'll just pause. You can drop the examples.
So
your question is as clear
drop
as
to us
comes.
clearly why there were failure and how this will
Now,
thrive.
let me answer you. Thank you very much. The biggest problem that we have today is the mindset, the ideologies the youth have. Let me answer. The failure is brought about by your mindset. For example, where I come from, we are organized. We got the money. The money is used. That is one. Douglas, let me answer you. The problem of Uganda today is not being effectively represented by the program. The problem is, how do we think? We have some people who are having a mindset that it is the problem. They have to blame and they cannot accept. What role have you played as a member?
I think we need to allow him to answer.
Yes, well, you cited the mindset. What is the government doing to narrow down that mindset? Try to explain to us
Very good.
what the government is trying to do in order to bridge that mindset of the youth.
Actually, I can answer you by saying the
Now I
government
understand. It is about the youth. I see the room
Yes.
charged.
The government has organized several workshops for the youth, trying to engage them in ideologies that will help the youth sustain themselves. But they do not take part. And when they go there, they actually come to the ground and do not do what they were told to do.
I'm looking for a lady because the whole front is only gentlemen. If there is a lady's hand, okay, Mbarara. And you'll be the final for this session, and then he will wind up.
Yeah.
All right, so his entire submission is premised on the fact that what if the government can organize these workshops? He told you clearly that these youths are privileged to be in the urban sector. Majority are from the rural sector. If it was that effective, then the numbers of unemployment would have been escalating for the worst.
Thank you. Now let me answer you, my fellow colleague. Today,
Timekeeper, how much do we have?
Uganda, the problem
minute.
the problem we have is not actually what you're saying, that these people are not represented. The problem we have as the generation of today is how we package ourselves for the future. Now I give an example. Sometimes you can give someone like 1 million. The person will only think of going to buy an iPhone. And then you give 1 million to another person, will think of, what can I start up so that I can multiply this money? So if we cannot change that mindset, then we shall not go where we are supposed to be.
Thank you very much. I like your passion. I definitely like your passion. I don't know about the rest. Arthur, you come to the stage after a very passionate engagement between the audience and the debater.
Yes, of recent I was asked a question as to what are the levels of unemployment in Uganda. We see that in every year we create 75,000 jobs, and people who are unemployed are, out of the 70,000, 700,000 jobs that people are seeking for. We see that when you compare 75,000 to 700,000, we see that the level at which jobs are created is really minimal. We see that government has failed to increase these levels, and with time we find that this is the reason as to why the youth are unempowered economically. Of recent, he talked about various programs of the government. He talked about the MYOGA. Yes, the MYOGA is there, but it's not effective. Why? Because there are no follow-up programs that are put up by government. Once you're given the token, you just go, and they do not follow you up to check whether you have rightly used this money. We also have NADS, which is there to support farmers.
You already have a hand up there.
But it is failing because the government does not educate these people and follow them up.
The question is, you as a group, are you organized to use the resources that you are given?
If they
Thank you.
have followed
Pass the
them
microphone to your neighbor.
Allow me to start by saying that the small representation of your group isn't inclusive of the majority of the society. So you shouldn't portray to the world that because your group was successful, every other group was successful. That's a fallacy.
To answer your question,
So
yes.
let me conclude. What he's trying to drive at is the issue of monitoring and evaluation. Does the government go ahead and monitor and evaluate their programs? Definitely not. All we see is a redesign of the same policy, but given a different name, but has the same problems. Then the issue is, are your policies effective?
Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, I would like to inform everyone inside here that first and foremost, we have policies that bring about all these innovations, and later on, they bring onto what some people call innovations that could prosper and help the youth develop. One of the things I would like to question is, we call ourselves social media elites, right? As the youth, right? Okay, not all of you, if not, none of you are here. But the point is, have we utilized the social media that we keep on? For example, you have Uganda Investment Authority. It has a detailed report on basically what the youth can present and get employment in and earn from much as they can.
Yes, you're saying that there is social media, but has government taught people how to use social media? Because you can put information there and you do not sensitize them that this information is really there. You just put the information and people cannot read it. And then the other thing, we see that we have high levels of illiteracy here in Uganda. Most people do not know how to read and write. Has government done enough to translate to different languages this information? Because you may write it in English and I do not understand English, I may understand Luganda. Yes?
Okay.
Regarding that,
I'll
social media
take
is
the
quite
audience. I'll
expensive.
start with two
Of recent,
ladies.
we had
If
taxes
there are
that
any
were imposed
ladies
on social
raising their
media.
hands. If you have a beard, put your hand down.
Of recent, we saw government imposing high taxes on social media. The youth could not afford to pay.
Okay, there are no
the
ladies, so the
OTT.
gentlemen, you can
Even
raise
where
your
it was
hands.
scrapped off, data is really expensive. Most of us have done online
Can we take
classes, but
Nkumba
still
and
we've
who is the other after Nkumba? Nkumba Busitema. Is that All Saints? Yes. Nkumba Busitema, All Saints, and then we return to him.
Moya Ibrahim once again. I think the question we should be answering around all these government intervention is there a country that has really transformed itself and developed by giving its citizens money? Thank you.
Yes, in regards to that.
Interesting.
Thank you very much, the moderator. Ngarano Titus, Busitema University, third year Polymer and Industrial Engineering. I would like to ask the panelist over there, when you talk about monitoring and evaluation, you get to realize that most of these government programs work in phases, and the monitoring and evaluation phase is always there in all government programs. So can we at least justify our claims that there is no monitoring and evaluation? They are there, but in the context of not being effective and also efficient as per se. Two, when you also talk about the part of education, the government, every time they introduce a program, they do the first phase of education and sensitization of the general public, especially the youth. So, sir, tackle the aspect of, is it really there or not really there? Thank you.
Thank you. I think that question will be answered by his Drake later, because it's really directed at Drake. Please shoot.
Proceeding to his questions, we see that even though there's evaluation, it has been quite minimal. He has said that they do follow up the youth, but what are the repercussions have they imposed on these who have faltered, whereby they misuse these funds? And if at all they have not been able to put up these repercussions, we see that the youth have kept on doing the same. If at all these repercussions were there, NADS right now would have been progressive. But you see that NADS is only limited to a few areas. When you go back in Mpigi or nearby areas, you find that some people do not know actually about NADS because it has been limited to a few scoop of people. Then the other thing is that he talked about the Myoga program. The Myoga program, this is where they are given a token of money. But this money is misused by the youth. And where it has been misused, the government has not been able to follow them up to see whether they have really used this money.
Thank you very much. We'll go to the last one. And I will ask my colleague to invite the last presenter for his 5 minutes with interruption. And we said this is a no holds barred. Everyone is free to shoot at you all through. Ladies and gentlemen, I will introduce the moderator that picks up the baton from here. She will allow me introduce her. Mildred Tuhaise, a journalist. Is she a journalist? The last time I saw her, she was also a fitness freak. She ran a fitness studio, and she was a fitness freak. I saw her do her first bulletin on TV many years ago. That's how old I am. Welcome, Mildred. And please pick the baton from me. I'm very comfortable that I pass the baton comfortably.
Peaceful change of power. Thank you very much, Peter. And of course, we'll proceed with you and then be able to take the questions.
We are given money and we eat it. Socially, that is the African mindset and upbringing. As the youth, are we responsible? What defines the citizen of a nation? If the youth, we are to develop the incoming nation. Are we responsible? If we listen to Emyoga, do we think of being given 5 million to eat? Haven't we heard of being informed about forming groups? I leave that. Thank you. We look at Apple, Tesla, Microsoft. All these are leading companies in the world. What does Africa or Uganda don't have? Aren't we people? Aren't we educated? First and foremost, going to the education section. We are all running out of the technical and vocational education. The biomedicine engineering, going into engineering, these are the things that will lift our own nation. As the youth, we need to understand where is our standpoint. Okay? Then, I would like to proceed to another thing. The government has also...
We actually have a hand behind.
Okay, maybe I beg to take them after this.
No. Okay. You'll please take them immediately.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know which kind of youth you interact with that are only drunkards, that only eat the money, and then you make an assumption that the old people perhaps don't eat the money or they don't drink, because those are problems that exist on either side. The question is, why don't those youth, given the biggest percentage and some unique problems of their demography, why don't they deserve that seat on the table because that was like the engagement. But these cries of we are eating the money, I really think those are not the problems of youth. They apply everywhere, so I don't buy them.
Okay, thank you very much. As you discussed first, we discussed motivation. We discussed innovation as the youth. Being a drunkard, to another extent, I would wish to explain to you that a drunkard is a person who does not just get drunk or puzzled by the mind. He earns, goes and spends, he gets drunk, right? Then, how do you expect people with such a mindset, like I wouldn't say you've presented, reflecting all the youth to be of a mindset? Why don't we ask the small youth, the small population, elevate and show what we can do? We have Innovation Village. Have we consulted Innovation Village? We have a Myoga. Someone can write a document. We are university students.
We have hands up. A few hands up. We'll start from Uganda Christian University.
You speak of innovation. Now, in my view, any person that is really worth their soul would know that from ideation, whether be it policy, be it innovation, you have to have a certain level of inclusion, you have to have a certain level of training and financial management. Do we see these kind of things? Because one, it's different for me to have an idea and actually translate that idea into an economic powerhouse and actually make a bit of profit and be able to give back. We have about 11.7 billion sitting in the Bank of Uganda, which was supposed to be rolled out in the Youth Livelihood Fund. How accessible are these funds? Yeah. Now, if access to these funds, one, in and of itself is a problem. Secondly, do we have a close end game monitoring and evaluation to see where we went wrong and how to better these projects, other than just switching names and rebranding them from Emyoga, from NADS and the likes, and we still have more of the same, which further compounds the problem. What's your take on that?
Thank you, and I request we'll keep our questions short. We'll go to Clarke, Cavendish.
Okay, thank you. First and foremost is to the issue of youth who are drunkards. I don't believe that every youth in Uganda is a drunkard. And if they were drunkards, that isn't the case here. We do have drunkards that have a clear mindset and good financial discipline. Most of them do run bars, and I know them personally. That isn't the issue. The issue is that, do you have sustainable implementation directives that actually do implement these things that you're advocating for? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take one from the ladies at Uganda Martyrs. And I do have Positama as well.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask the speaker in front of us, are you benching so much on the mindset and the financial indiscipline of the youth, but what are the leaders doing for the youth to change their mindset? You've had the president on the Anti-Corruption Day saying that they can do all the corruption they want as long as they're investing it in the country. Which kind of image are the leaders showing the youth to have the financial discipline?
Okay. Thank you. Yes. To your neighbor, and then we'll go to Busitama finally and get back to...
Okay, hello everyone. Rachel Ruth is my name. Yeah, so in your submission at first, you said we won't trust the youth because you said because they riot and everything. But my question to you is, what prompts these youth to come into the rioting?
Finally, Busitama, and then we'll come back to you briefly.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, you talked about the issue of being drunkards and all that. We believe that drinking is a choice, and very certain that if it wasn't for the context of us, some of us here being responsible drinkers or probably respecting ourselves, we couldn't be at the end of the day. Two, the issue of all these programs that all of us here are raising, the issue of yoga and all that, we get to realize that some of these issues are not well utilized by the youth themselves because of ignorance, and that comes in a context that some of these youth do not know about these programs. Therefore, I pose a question. What plans do the governments put in place so that the youth can get to know about the programs that benefit them? Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, one of the drunkardness, it wasn't me who started the story. Okay. My time is going, please. Okay, and
you have a few minutes. Yes, be first.
Someone talked of responsible drinking is different from being a drunkard. That is one. Then a person who talked about inclusion of the youth in policy making. We vote by wave, right? No, everyone can remember we voted by wave, not views or someone intellectual going to represent us. Then, as I talk about corruption, we have incentives or initiatives that have been set forward to enable us, the youth, avoid corruption and show us where we are reporting. But though, I'm not going to much cultivate into corruption and fighting it because I'm not a Uganda spokesperson in charge of that. But I would like to enlighten you more that do you know that we have police? As the elite, we carry out research. Do you know that you can prepare research and forward it to any ministry, police, or judiciary for it to be interdicted and worked upon?
Sorry,
Thank
time
you.
is out. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for the enthusiasm coming in from the audience. I know that we are far late for our lunch and we will need to wind up this particular session. We take our lunch and then we'll be coming back for Group F. But just before we go for our lunch, I will request that our judges will give a final submission to what they think about. Oh, okay. The judges are actually still adding up a bit of this, totaling it all up. Before we get the final one, wondering if we still have just a few questions as the judges do their tallies. Because before we go for lunch, we need to know what our tallies are, and then much later on when we do return, we'll start off officially from Group F. Just a minute. All right, thankfully, we will have been informed. Our lunch is in about 20 minutes from now. So just hold up a little bit. But as our judges get to conclude the tallying, we will allow a few more questions to the participants who are still right with us and from themselves, if there is any more query that you want to put forward. I'll start from Mbarara University of Science, and then I will go to All Saints University right behind.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I'm just the one who is confused, but I think that most of our panelists have not answered the question. What does the government have in store for the youth? Not what are the youth doing about what the government has done, but so if the youth are doing something, if the youth are drunkards, what does the government have in store for me, the drunkard? As the youth, are they doing anything for me politically, economically, or socially for me to get out of my drunkenness? Or Bambi, the youth are drunkards. What is the government doing?
Thank you. I have, yes. All Saints, Lango.
Thank you very much once again. By the name Zachary Emmanuel. If you had not given me the opportunity to present in this matter, I would not debate. When we talk about the political aspect of this nation, I feel pissed up. Recently, we all heard about the Toji Kwatako bill, the age limit. It gave platform for youth to participate in political space. Now, where we can see today, we have one of the youngest LC5 chairperson from Mpigi district. Now, the question we need to ask in this aspect of politics is how can we, as a young people, fight the monetarization of politics? That is what is limiting the young people. And I would believe that through this platform, we would come up with a solution to address what the government have in store for the young people. We shall talk about youth livelihood, all these other fun. And at the end of the day, we shall not address the solution.
Thank you.
Now, we need something that we as a young people, through this platform, we can table before the government and watch it being worked on. Thank you very much.
And I request that we'll keep them short. Ankole University. I have a question.
Many have said that the government gives money to the youth. But if you are so sure, you see, if, for example, the Imyoga, you have to repay it back. So it doesn't mean the government is giving you money, and actually that's the mindset that is killing many youth in Uganda, that when they are given money, the money it is to be eaten, yet the money it is to be paid back. For example, when you go to Isinjiro, many youth, they were given, they benefited from this program of youth livelihood. And when they got that money, for them, they ate it, and now they are put in jails. And now the youth are rising up that the government is putting sanctions and is harassing them. And that's the mindset of the youth in Uganda.
Okay, Nkumba, and then St. Lawrence.
Thank you. We have been talking about government giving money to the youths. But then I would like to know from the panelists there, is money the only problem of the youths? What happened to good governance? What happened to accountability? What happened to civic space and allowance for rule of law? Thank you.
All right, let's first get to St. Lawrence and have a bit of the panelists and then get back, because at least the other universities have had a bit of a time to ask questions.
Thank you very much. My name is Mawerere Chitimbo Ivan from St. Lawrence University, pursuing a bachelor's degree in arts with education. To my own view, I think all the disorganization with money and the government programs come from our leaders themselves. The example they are portraying of being corrupt. So what do you expect the youth in the village to do if they are hearing of leaders eating billions of money? And now this youth gets a chance of getting 2M from the government. What do you expect them to do? Because that's what our leaders are portraying. The sense of patriotism was killed and no one is minding to restore it back. The government has come up with the Patriotism Club, and they are trying so hard to see that they build back the sense of patriotism to the people, most especially the young people. But I think the effort that they are putting in is not all that enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give just a minute each to the panelists before we get responses from our judges. And in no particular order, let's get the microphone to the panelists. From left to right, a minute each. As quick as possible, respond to some of the questions raised.
At the beginning of my speech, I stated that the issue or the matter of discussion isn't on what are the policies. I stated that what is the efficacy, the practicability, and the impact of these policies that are in place. A question that was asked by one of the members in the audience was, is money the only problem of the youth? In my speech, I told you that according to the 2021-2026 the Youth National Council Manifesto, they highlighted big issues that affect the youth, of which among them included employment, livelihood, entrepreneurship and creative expression, education and sports, and among others. Now, money isn't the only problem that the youth face today. There are other issues that the youth face, of which employment would encompass the issue of money, because if the youth are unemployed, then definitely they would want money. We would want to buy our necessities. Therefore, the question is not whether these policies are there, is the question of the efficacy, impact, and practicability of these policies.
Thank you. Our minute is done. We have a minute each.
Thank you. Some of the people are asking question that is giving money to the youth the only solution. I say no. The government has several programs that it has brought. For example, we have liberalization of the economy, where everyone is free to carry out business. If you are creative enough, you can go to the market economy, export. You know, some youth have actually gone to overseas, they have worked, they have gotten the money, they have changed the status of their families. That is also a point on the board that you should also note, not only looking at what is taking place here. We also have economic empowerment. We also have inclusion of the youth. on every level, starting from local council 1, we have a representative from the youth up to parliament level. Now, if the youth cannot start from local council 1 to talk about their issues, then it means that there is a problem with the youth itself, but not the government. Thank you.
Okay.
What does Uganda have in store for posterity? Is what the government doing, preparing the youth for the future success? Because we see that what government is doing, it is teaching people bad manners. First of all, there are high levels of corruption. 2, we have high levels of oligarchy and democracy, whereby it's only the rich that dominate politics. We also have the civic space. Yes, the Constitution talks about civic liberties, but are they being put into practice? Because you may say that you have freedom of speech, but is it there? Because you see causing them and killing them. One time, Yuval Harari Noah, in his book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, he once said that human beings involve themselves in activities that destroy them. And they try to do this with selfish motives.
Okay, thank you very much. First, I would wish to differ from him. First and foremost, we have civic education being given an opportunity. Right now, we could actually, first of all, thank the Center for Constitutional Governance. We are getting educated and educating other youth. That is civic education. And another thing, people are talking about unemployment or youth being given money. We have industrial parks that are being set up. But how ready are the youth to come into the economy and provide those rights and needs that are needed in the industrial parks? That is to say, the beverages, the food. Are we ready to supply and create more opportunities? Are we making more startups to come up in that we can then analyze and say there hasn't been support for startups? Then I would also like to add on about what government is doing.
Finally.
Government has allowed anyone to say anything. He said you've limited him from saying anything. But what has limited him from saying anything from here? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, we will take on the comments from our judges. The tallying has as well been concluded. And then right after, we will be able to take our lunch.
Thank you very much, Mildred, for that. I've known you as a very tough journalist, going inside these shoes always. Now, the social, political, and economical. What does government have in store? In short, you were being told to evaluate whether the political system in place, the social systems in place, the economic frameworks in place, and enable the youth, or can enable the youth to participate or to prepare to participate in the development of their country. That's what you were being asked. Yes. And I expected that everyone to look at the social system. What is a social system? What is a political system? What is an economic system? What economic system are we in? What social system has resulted from our political activities? But so I come to a point of problem. And my elder there, the lady seated there, she's much older than me, asked me, are these university students? I'm not abusing you, but I'm an academic because I will challenge you.
Because if you are university students, then you should be able to tell me, before you engage realpolitik, which my friend from Ankole was involved in, realpolitik, meaning you are looking at things with all intellectual dishonesty. You want to think they are the truth. Now, by originating things from the foundations, describing the system that we espoused as a country, you are able to tell that I think, with all honesty, that I think we went wrong here. If you want to evaluate a national system from your parliament, for a system you love, you cannot be an intellectual. And we are here for an intellectual debate. Are we together? That is not to undermine any of these, but I am teaching. Meaning, I would have expected that at the social level, say, this is, I think, a social framework, or these are social frameworks that globally we think work, or one that has been generic in our case. And that, according to what I see, there are missing links. The youth are drunkard, they seem not to be stable, what? Then that is the problem of, partly, of a political system in place. That's the problem of an economic system in place somehow. And so, when we talk of political, social, economic, we are talking about, and I want you to listen carefully, we are talking about, in the case of a society or nation, we are talking about formation. I don't know whether you get me. That the young people of this country are forming in a certain way, politically, socially, and economically. That if it's, let's say, capitalism, the youth know markets, they know free trade, they know that it's all about self-determination, and that they have a mindset to self-determine. Are we together? And that if we are talking about a social system, we are also talking about beliefs and values that the young people espouse in trade and other relations, in production. So if the belief system is defunct, it means there is something problematic. So you can't blame the people, because the duty of government or any political system is to guide this formation, is to put in place an environment for this formation to take place, desirable formation. So my question is, what do we call for a country a desirable formation? Now, it's the political system that puts that in place. So if 30 years after, and I'm being sincere, because we academics, intellectual dishonesty is not our place. Even if you are my friend, I tell you, you have a bad, you are smelling. But doesn't mean I hate you. If 30 years after, you say that our youth are drunkards, then it means you prepared them to be drunkards. That's what it means, for your information. Because the role of government is to aid a desirable formation on which then they can rally people for their programs. Are we together? I don't know whether you are getting me. If 30 years after, whichever head of a system says, our youth do not vote ideas, they vote sensations, they vote tribes, they vote Malwa, they vote, then it means you prepared them. Take me clearly. Formation is the key word. Because one of the roles, I repeat, of a government, of a political system, is to aid formation of her people. That's, if after 30 years you see that we give them money and they eat it, or they don't know how to trade, or they are not innovative, you are telling the youth, then it means they do not understand the economic system. They have not been formed to espouse the values. For our case, it's periphery capitalism. It has its own vulgarities, but it can be aided to become full capitalism, where we trade freely, demand and forces of demand and supply. But you have to aid formation of that. Back to the final, then to you quickly, and I hand over to my colleagues. Now, as you debated, I saw a total lack of understanding of our systems, political systems, social systems, systems that work. You can copy, you can refer to Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, they did this. You can refer to Ghana, whatever, where there has been something. And then say, on the basis of this, this is my evaluation. Even if you're a cadre, because I'm one, intellectualism demands that you step away from intellectual dishonesty in order to even help your own to move the debate forward. Are we together? Huh? Now, I see a very big struggle and a problematic struggle. And I don't know how we ended here. Because as I listened to you, I didn't see intellectuals. I see men in the marketplace involved in dialectical materialism. I don't know, Joy, if you get it. In us, you are responding to what is affecting you. And I blame my government 30 years after for this. That we have young people, they are responding to what is affecting them as opposed to hedging it with the values and beliefs, which is metaphysics, that they have. That they, as you debate on what you think is the ultimate for humanity, then you can begin to defend a system that where you belong. So I saw a battle between, I didn't see metaphysics anywhere here. Meaning, you do not have established beliefs. You think what is happening around you is perfect, or is okay, or is not okay. For those pro and against. That's why I will take the new people in government, and they do the same things the existing government are doing. Why? Because they are not grounded in a useful belief or value system on which then they will rally their people to develop. That they will also begin to take money thinking that when you are rich, that's it. And that when you are finally put there, you will leave the talk. Now, metaphysics allows you to do that. That you are grounded, you believe, you value, and that you are ready for the sacrifice. And that in whatever circumstances, you will never allow, even when you're a minister, 2 cars full of policemen in front and behind, when your people are dying of jiggers, when buildings are falling on, that you will never allow it. You can only do that when you understand deeply the importance of fundamentals. Now, you are called Demon first. Onen is a very smart man. I have the first time, you're a very smart man. And I have liked the way you presented your issues, and you are thinking, you were thinking. I realized you were thinking. Someone could judge you that you were on the opposite, but that's the truth. That's what we see. He was talking of drunkards and blaming them on the drunkards. He doesn't even think that the family is responsible for the formation of a child. He doesn't think that society is responsible for formation of a child. He does not think that a government in place and a political system is entirely responsible for the two. He thinks each family is a political system. No. There's one political system, and its work is to enable formation of a country, socially, politically, and economically. That we don't talk of drunkards, they are outliers. Onen, you are smart, but you lacked, you lack a school of thoughts on which you base your understanding, and that you are willing to die for this school of thought, and that when you are given chance one day to lead, you will do it once in your lifetime, like Lee Kuan Yew said. We were not willing to fail. We had to do it once in our lifetime. Now, I will put his red in power, and he will repeat the same things. That's the unfortunate bit. My brother here is synonymous with my friends, and is almost similar to my friends and colleagues. They think they had no responsibility. I keep telling that to my brother Mafabi, and we disagree, but we belong to the same political system. I'm not dishonest. He thinks that it is their fault for us we give money to its citizens to develop. You give them tax incentives, but you also form them socially. You show them the production system right from childhood. The parents are also responsible for their formation, and that you are writing parents and community to do so. It's a system. Everyone is not an individual. It's a system. So if people are eating the money, I come from Shema. Do you come from Shema as well? Shema North. And I keep quarreling about this. Recently, we have jiggers in our district, and I'm totally disheartened. And I'm asking myself, what the hell is going on? Is it the fault of the people? What went wrong? We have rich people. I don't know whether he knows this. We have rich people who can't show you a product that they own. It's not normal that you have rich people who cannot tell you where they got the money, that they don't even have a brand. The owner of Movit can argue, and I listen to him. Say, Murwana can argue, and I listen to him. Why? Because he's able to show this. Mkwano can argue, and I listen to him. Madvani can. But we have so many rich people, and they are not even shy to go on TV and say, I'm rich. But you ask, where did they? Now that means there's a problem with social formation, and that we have double dealers of government, political entrepreneurs instead of real productive people. So I am sorry. Sometimes we have to be very honest and really critique from social system. You are a university student, so you first engage at theoretical level and say, are we in line? Before you even, otherwise you'd be seen as a normal political, real politic it's called, who respond to, you are not involved. My brother here is a bit annoyed. And because he's annoyed, it overshadows. Truth be told, there are very good things that the NRM government has loaded onto our country. One of them is your ability to think that this is wrong and we disagree with it. But because you have not been socially formed, you will not even agitate correctly. Because it's all, like I told you earlier, we are lost in a maze of issues, terrible issues. Finally, these are opinions, and say the opinion, and say it correctly. We will overcome someday. Okay? Still, you lacked some metaphysical. I'll still put you in power, and you'd behave like them. That's my problem. Finally, I think I didn't understand him. I was failing to understand him. You didn't have a locus. I don't know why. But still, this is the problem of realpolitik. But then you are saying, I didn't know. Private sector foundation has youth. Have you read? But are these people brought up to read? And who is responsible? Those are the basics you should begin with. First, in these theories, who is responsible for the family? The family is the strongest unit of society. And that's where all politics should take place first. Yeah? In order then to say, yes, parents, I gave you this chance, you failed to do your work. I want you to do, I'm whipping you into perspective. Do your work very well. But a system cannot blame the parent without a framework without an education system to do so. It's dishonesty. So if a school comes from the family, by the way, and society, it can't be the other way around. I'm sorry. A school comes from. So if an education system is unable to guide, then it means in the first place it was never its product. Are we together? So I didn't understand you. You are everywhere. I didn't know what to do, but I didn't understand you. I didn't understand you. But generally I realized that you are a product of direct co-materialism. You are a product of realpolitik. The other ones are criticizing a system that they want to overtake, but still do the same things. These ones are in the system, which is doing, blaming the people, their children. It's like a father blaming the sons that you didn't, how you don't. So why do you? Do you get the problem? Daddy did not respect mommy, so why do you want me to respect my? Yeah? Yes. You can't. It's not possible, my friends. Those who are defending a system, blaming the children that you gave birth to. 35-year-olds, these are younger. Even us are struggling. We belong to a group which was emerging from a little bit of a social economic system that was a bit stable, a little. You can criticize about it, but they had a production system, cooperative societies. They were mentoring. I keep telling people that to me a cooperative society had all components, because I used to see my parents go to meet at a cooperative society building, and they would discuss all issues, economics, social, the trends and these were real important. Now, we have a system where everyone is left on their own and leaders are criticizing the people, saying you are doomed, you are silly. But whose children are these in terms of a country? And it's a responsibility to form. Let me end there. I wish you well in your lives.
Maybe our next judge could say something small just before we do take our lunch break. But I hope that we are learning, because this is where we all started.
Good afternoon, everybody. Habari zenu? I come from across the border, so if you don't mind, I'll address you in Kiswahili. Is that okay? Total panic. Anyway, that was to wake you up. I only have one point for you young people. I also used to be like you. I will not go into philosophy and all the rest of it. But by training, I'm a linguist. So it's very important when you want to convey a message, that message has to be conveyed clearly. There's times you wanted to say something, but it's lost in the syntax. Is the sentence correctly laid out? The word order and so on. So really you have to do something about your language skills. And that comes from reading. You have to read and read and read. We don't want screenagers, as the colleague said earlier on. 20 pages a day or even more in your area of competence. So that's what I'd really like to appeal to you, to enhance your reading skills. Thank you.
because we're sort of running late, I'll try to be as precise as I possibly can, but in particular because we had the teacher really do give the instructive teaching lessons. Number two, we have the privilege of all of us having been here in the morning, so the first session. It's very important that all of us are here and into the next session. So I will not do too many repeats, except that Sarah, Deus, and you know, I just want to share something very personal, and it's fantastic good news. And that is because I'm actually not only a grandfather, but I am a grand Salongo. But the reason is that yesterday, on the points you're making, yesterday I was at my daughter's house, and my grandchildren just returned home. And so the bigger boy, now the firstborn, it was now mealtime before I left. And so this young guy was insisting on, I think, watching cartoons. And the dad was succumbing, maybe because I was around. And I insisted no. And I insisted no. And we had to turn off the TV and the phone. And the point I told the dad much later was that while I'm in Agongera and we play around with this boy, I encourage him to grow in confidence. One of the demerits of that is one, table manners. But number two, we don't want this guy to go and get away with everything. And something came to me as one of the things I used to do at schools, meaning anti-bullying schemes, up to and including university. I got involved in these things. So I was trying to tell him that, look, if this guy grows into wanting to have it his way, he's likely going to be a bully because he thinks he can get away with it. But actually, possibly when he goes into public life, he will have this nonsense of some kind of sense of entitlement. And in part, that is actually what Deus is talking about. But I want to repeat, these sessions here are not for us to come and spend a day here. These sessions here are genuinely training for you guys, genuinely training for these guys, and genuinely training for those people who will watch. So we take it very, very seriously. Yes, I think as my sister Olga said earlier, we come here deliberately, we give our times because we genuinely want to impart this onto yourselves. Now, Sally and Dan Nabuderi, late 60s, fell out with the government because they took the view that they were rather much more radically left. And to the extent, I think that one of them got expelled from the party. Sort of they went to the extreme. What Deus was saying, and what we're actually trying to tell you guys is this. These debates are not about NRM versus others. It is about the actual factual realities in Uganda. And like your lecturer is saying, we are teaching you, we just try to use the word teaching you guys how, how to study, learn, pick up, change, grow, and become leaders of tomorrow. Transform yourselves and transform the nation, transform the communities. So, you know, it is possible for you to agree, to disagree, including with the systems and including with your families in a good way. So that's important. Number two, I got a small issue earlier. You can't be at a university, I think we're going to be rather critical, but in a brief way. You can't be at a university and say you're making a speech. You know, it's minor things. I think I was with one of the, I think Timothy Kaligera. And a young man came and said, "Hello, Mr. Tim." And he said, "No, I'm not Mr. Timothy. I'm either Mr. Kaligera or Timothy." So again, these are small things. That's why you're being told, you guys, my friend, read. 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 And read beyond your sphere of skills and expertise. So these are debates. You're not giving a speech. You know, you're making a submission or a presentation. You're not giving a speech. Now, we don't want to let that go, because if we let it go, you're going to use the same words tomorrow. So basically, we'll run ideological orientations. The students of my time, you go to debate at a university, you have absolutely big convictionist position. Now, The early debate, we thought it was slightly much more technical. I'm actually genuinely shocked that this topic about the youth, you guys, the youth, what do you consider this country has it for you in stock, politically? Really, surely, you can't be discussing these things without looking at educational systems. You can't be discussing these things without talking about the rampant corruption your professor is trying to guide you on. You can't talk about these things without contextualizing the question of jobs, in terms of figures, real figures. You can't talk about these things without talking about taxation, including tax incentives, which governments generally should be able to give families to encourage family units, childbirth, young families. That is still a youth issue. You can't talk about this thing, you talk about crime. All these things are public policy issues. It happens, government doesn't say that, well, those guys are crude guys in Nambole, let's leave them, let's go and take the police to whip them. What are the underlying issues? The intellectuals, the lecturers come in, the professors, what is it? What are the root causes of poverty? Just like what are the root causes of crime? These academic international issues. What causes these things? Now, you may not necessarily be right, but these are things that you need to be able to interrogate. We want you to be able to interrogate these things so that you go back, have conversations, not only at universities, but maybe help your communities. So really, these are the issues. Then final point really, actually, is this. The examples. It's extraordinary that you discuss this subject without giving comparative analysis about what happens rest of the world. These days, guys, there's purely Google. Even if you don't have books, there's Google. So, what do the youth in Japan have which is different from the youth in China? What about the US? A conversation we had much earlier. What about in Scandinavia? I don't want to give too many other personal examples, but quite clearly, the situation is such that government is the enabler, for which you guys then come ahead and play these things. These are the kind of things that we're trying to talk about. And quite interestingly, what is that young people can do differently, to propel the much needed stuff? I don't think any of you guys mentioned anything to us. I don't know. So anyway, well done. Time is bad. We are rather hungry. I know that you guys did as much as you possibly, your formats, your compositions. I think Deos talked about all of it. There'll always be a winner. The only thing is just for us to learn how to become responsible, decent winners, just like in many cases when we become number 3, how to become good number 3s in a team. So, the third runner-up is Muteesa 1 Royal University. The second runner-up, that was represented by Arenaitre, Geoffrey. Second runner-up, as we would say, is Ankole Western University. Amon, well done. The first runner-up has been today in Nkozi, Alpha. And on this occasion, strictly for these purposes only, we have a winner in Uganda Christian University, Mr. Onet. Well done, guys, and very best wishes.
All right. Yes, I will allow the panelists to come down. And like our judge said, Judge Joseph, it is not about who is the winner, who came first, who came third, who came second. It's about the lessons that we are taking. If you can forget anything else the judges have said, do not forget that they said, read. That is the most important thing for our generation right now. Access to information. You want to become a good public speaker, you want to become a good leader, you want to become good at whatever you do, read. Is the key that you can have. Read. You need to know something about everything. That's a pillar that I use, and that's a pillar that we use in journalism. You know something about everything. When they talk politics, you can debate it. They talk fashion, you can debate it. They talk health, you can debate it. But that only if you can be able to read. We're going to take about 30, 40 minutes. If we can be able to utilize those, about 30 minutes. Our lunch is served. but I will request that our judges as well as the high table will go fast for lunch, and then the rest of us can be able to join. But let's have lunch as quick as we can, and then we'll come back with our next group. God bless you, and bless the food that you're going to eat.